Here we have someone that was supposed to be taking care of his children, a father that was supposed to be looking out for food to give his children if he definitely have one, someone that was literally supposed to mind his business. He has the right, the guts, the audacity, the effrontery to meddle in the business of black people. And he is not only meddling in the business of black people, he is meddling in the sense whereby he dislike it whenever he see black people succeed. If not, let it make sense to me that someone can literally pick up his camera, set his ring light, look straight into the camera and utter these God-forsaken words. Black Americans, welcome back to the channel. My name is Sonia. Subscribe, like, comment, and share. And credits belong to the original creators of every single clips and stitches we have in our today's episode. I want to say a very big thank you to every single one of you liking, commenting, sharing, dropping super thanks, and also joining my membership. I do not take you guys for granted. You guys are absolutely the best. With that being said, let's go watch this video and let me know your honest opinion in the comment section. I'll be back with commentaries. Let's
Would you trust these doctors with your life?
Indubitably, especially since when black patients are treated by black doctors, those patients experience better health and lower mortality. But also because if it wasn't for black doctors, everybody be dead. Dr. Daniel Hale Williams performed the first successful open heart surgery in 1893. Dr. Solomon Carter Fuller translated Alzheimer's work from German to English in the early 1900s. Dr. Charles Drew discovered that it was easier to bank blood plasma than store whole blood. Dr. Jane Cook Wright discovered that you can monitor the effects of drugs on cancer cells using patient tissue instead of laboratory mice. So would I trust my life with that room full of super melanated, highly educated, often imitated, never duplicated, extra elevated room full of geniuses? The answer, an unequivocal yes. Now cue the music. Dr. King would have lived if he'd have had a black doctor. Another satisfying racial moment. Thought he ate, but he yet famished.
Would you trust these doctors with your life, considering their college admission standards are lower, and they might even have special classes to pad their grade to make sure they pass, only available to minorities? Now, that's not to say that none of these doctors are qualified. I'm sure some of them are. But are you confident that every doctor in that room got there by merit, that they have the work ethic, the intelligence, and the impulse control to do their job properly?
Those doctors are celebrating their achievements in the white coats that they earned while you sit at home in a fucking sweatshirt. If you have an issue with black doctors saving your life, I suggest you stay home and die. It's your body, your choice.
Violent stupidity and bigotry.
Do you trust these doctors with your life, considering their college admission standards are lower?
What?
And they might even have special classes to pad their grade to make sure they pass, only available to minorities?
So dollar store John Lennon got on the internet with his whole chest puffed out and spoke with such confidence into that phone while being loud, stupid, wrong, and racist. All because the video of black people graduating from medical school triggered him. And then he goes on to presume that they are most likely not even qualified to do the job that they just graduated from years of schooling to do. All because they are black. I need you to understand and unpack everything that happened in his white life that brought him to this conclusion. It started off with affirmative actions racist to white people, even though white women benefited from affirmative action more than any other group. But I bet you he's never questioned whether a white woman was a qualified doctor. And because we allowed that hateful rhetoric to continue, as if it was an educated argument, then it snowballed into this idea that people of color are getting into positions in colleges and places that they would not otherwise be qualified to get into. But since they're not white, they just get a free pass. And people where I'm from, they'll tell you that's not racist. I'm just telling you how it is. It's that affirmative action. And the irony of the entire thing is the hateful bigots making these arguments couldn't even accomplish what these black doctors accomplished. There is zero quantifiable data to back up their bigotry, per the usual. But this is par for the course. These people will tell you racism in America isn't real. don't trust black doctors because they're black and no other reason. And to make it even more ironic, if I were to talk to this bigot about, say, crime or poverty, he would run to the argument of, well, black people aren't graduating high school. That's why they're in poverty. Which is it, dum-dum? Are they getting free passes and graduating schools because they're black? Or are they not graduating schools because they're black, and that's why poverty exists higher in the black community than in the white community? Pick a struggle, bigot. This is why, white people, that we in our community need to stand up and silence this hateful rhetoric that goes on around us. If you hear it, shut it up. Because that rhetoric turns to violence, and your silence is complicity.
So he's trying to sue for, get this, discrimination, claiming that they withheld vital, life-saving medical care because he was white and had a preference. But the case was dismissed because he literally wrote and signed that he didn't want any black help or assistance, etc., which the doctor followed to the letter. So basically, he tried to sue the doctor for having top-notch customer service.
Would you trust these doctors with your life, considering their college admission standards are lower?
Whew. I don't know where to even start with the amount of ignorance that was in that last video that I stitched, but let's start with some facts. This week is Black Maternal Health Week, and studies show that in the United States, black women are 3 times as likely to die during childbirth when compared to white women, and infant mortality is higher for black children than any other race. Studies also show that when black mothers are taken care of by black doctors, infant mortality rates cut in half. Black doctors are needed. And everyone that is a doctor is qualified. You have to go through 4 years of college, 4 years of medical school, and in medical school, you take step 1 and step 2, board exams that are standardized for everyone that's a medical student. Then you go into residency, which can last sometimes up to 7 years, depending on the specialty you go into. And that's not even to mention that even when you're a doctor, you still take exams to prove that you know your knowledge. It's a grueling process, and anyone that's a doctor has worked their butt off so that they can take care of patients, even patients like that person who are racist. What's incredible is we will care for you. We will give you the best care, and we'll do it with a smile, because we went into this field to help everyone. So if you're an underrepresented student thinking about going into medicine, do not let bigots like that lower your worth, because we need you now more than ever.
Dude, it's almost if you saw a group of black professionals and got triggered. Thank you for letting us know that you have no idea how doctors actually have to get their degree. It's not just going to college for 4 years and then like an additional 2 years in courses. They have to do residencies and hands-on learning experience at actual hospitals. So it's interesting that you think that these black professionals wouldn't have to go through the same rigorous training that any other doctor would have to go through.
And they might even have special classes to pad their grade to make sure they pass, only available to minorities.
What? Y'all literally make up the craziest and wild things because of your racism, because you are so triggered at the idea of black excellence and black people succeeding. Special classes for minorities. I went to college, and I can assure you that there was no class that was specifically for black people or for minorities. There might be topics that are, aimed towards minorities, but people of any color, race, gender, creed can take those classes. It's almost as if you don't know what you're talking about. Let's just call a spade, dude. Because it's quite clear you saw a group of black professionals succeeding and that triggered you. Oh, the fragility of it all. Maybe if you spent less time thinking about black people and how they are succeeding, and maybe focus on why you as a white person aren't succeeding, you would get further in life. But just like our ancestors, baby, you have to point the finger at other people for why you're not succeeding. And maybe instead, just look at yourself and make the assumptions about yourself instead of black people. Because all your video proved is that you are a racist who holds racist ideals, and that you think that black people don't have the merits to be professionals. Do better.
Would you trust these doctors with your life, considering their college admission standards are lower And they might even have special classes to pad their grade to make sure they pass, only available to minorities. Now, that's not to say that
you saw a room full of black doctors and your first thought was to question their merit. No facts, just racism and vibes. Meanwhile, the actual literature and numbers suggest that every black person in America should be terrified of seeing a white doctor, especially pregnant black women. Take your glasses off, do a couple Googles, and you'll see that the origin of gynecology in this country was white men experimenting on black enslaved female women. Here's the title of my doctoral dissertation that I'm writing right now. When I see a room full of black doctors, I get happy as hell because this means maybe, just maybe, we'll lose less black lives in the hospital.
Yes, I would, and I think you might need therapy, my friend.
with your life.
Hell yes, I would trust those doctors with my life. And if you're the type of person that would judge a person by the color of their skin when you're in need of a doctor, well, I guess you just need to stay home and die, as the other person would say. I bet if you were in a car accident and called 911, you're not going to ask the 911 operator to send you a white paramedic. And if you're that type of person, well, then you just need to go straight to hell.
Doctors with your life.
Indubitably.
Seconded, because my experience with especially white female doctors has been terrible. Like, the biggest thing was that I have asthma, just like my dad, just like my grandfather. It is a historically, genetically proven thing in my family history that we can't breathe, right? So tell me why it took 3 years and switching doctors and primaries and whatever to get someone to believe that I had asthma and wasn't begging for drugs. Did my previous doctor biopsy my lung or do any x-rays to see if I had like anything in there? Did she ask if I was a smoker? No, none of that. No, she just assumed that I was, told me that I shouldn't because I was too young for it, even though I hadn't touched a cigarette until after I turned 18, and just accused me of being a drug addict for wanting an inhaler. I don't know exactly. I know it's an inhaled corticosteroid, but like, is that really what the kids are huffing these days? Other times it's been like, you know, I'm collapsing and can't not vomit. And I had a period of time where I was sick for like 5 months straight, couldn't eat or drink anything except for like sips of water that I would immediately throw back up and stuff. Tell me why they said it was just stress. Tell me why I had a report that stated that my white blood cell count was fighting off an infection because it was 3 times the normal level, and they still said it was stress. Tell me how I've been a dancer and a gymnast and a just, you know, poorly coordinated person for my entire life, leading to a lot of injuries, including one where I fell like a story onto my spine, and the doctor told me, it's nothing. You don't need a cane. You don't need anything for that. You don't need pain management. Not to mention the times where I have definitely been given medication by like pharmacists that was not the medication I was supposed to get. Like, I was supposed to get hydrocodone. They gave me acetaminophen for pain management. I needed hydrocodone. They gave me acetaminophen. Hello? And then when I'm in there and they'll be like, oh, we're going to give you morphine. And I say, no, they don't listen. Because I had morphine the one time where I had an asthma attack so bad I had to be hospitalized. They gave me morphine and it sent me straight into a panic attack for 8 hours. And then the nurses were like, whatever. The whole time. The whole fucking time. I didn't have my phone on me. I didn't have my bag. They wouldn't let me turn on the TV. I just sat staring at the fucking clock for 8 hours. So tell me why the only doctor to ever listen to me was Miss Rebecca, who was a black woman who owned her own practice and was immediately gave me my inhaler. First day I saw her. She was like, you have asthma. And I'm like, no shit. And she was like, let's get you an inhaler. And she even prescribed me one that she thought was best, like, out of all of them. And listen to my, like, my price range and my personal needs and my activity level. And she had never once told me that all of my stuff was because of stress, or when she did, she actually acknowledged that stress has an effect on the body. Like, God, I miss her. Like, I remember the day I had to stop seeing her, she politely called me and she said, hey, we are in a tough position where, we can only, have the availability to see a certain amount of patients. And because you were one of the last ones who signed up with us, I'm so sorry, but we've decided to cut your care with us. And I still felt honored because she was so kind and she gave me like 6 months ahead of time to find a new doctor. And she still even answers like all of my medical questions that I have like sent back there because she was the last doctor that I could afford to see.
With your life?
Yes.
Yes.
Beautiful.
Would you trust these doctors with your life?
I do not like going to the doctor, but definitely trust them. And I 100% trust that doctors like them from historically marginalized communities are gonna work harder because of all the work that it took for them to get there. But let's talk about this payaso. He makes this pretty racist video, and I just feel like his views are rooted in jealousy, that seeing success from somebody that he feels superior to makes him feel some type of way. Watch.
Do you trust these doctors with your life, considering their college admission standards are lower? And they might even have special classes to pad their grade to make sure they pass, only available to minorities?
Wow.
Now, that's not to say that none of these doctors are qualified. I'm sure some of them are.
Rhetoric we've heard before.
Confident that every doctor in that room got there by merit, that they have the work ethic, the intelligence, and the impulse control to do their job properly?
Wow. With just a single sentence, he dismissed all of their accomplishments and the rhetoric of like, I'm sure some of them are good people. Notice that he doesn't give you any information or data to back up whatever he's saying. And his statements are making assumptions about them not being intelligent or not having the work ethic. And everything is rooted in the idea of white supremacy, as if those people are inferior in some way. Disgusting. He would not be making those statements if the people in that room were all European American. All this without adding that for decades, European Americans have gotten into colleges without merit, with things like legacy admissions. And let's not forget that not too long ago, there were a bunch of controversies about rich people using their wealth to cheat their children into getting into colleges that they weren't supposed to be accepted into. I have a lot more to say, but familia, what did I miss? I'm sure there was a bunch. And to finish this off, congratulations to them. I might actually start going to the doctor.
Absolutely. I would trust every single one of them with my life. Because this is the one thing that I do know. Daddy didn't buy their way into school. They got there because they worked hard. They succeeded because they studied and they worked hard. And they have to take the same qualifying exams that anyone else has to take. So yes, I trust them. Now crawl back under your rock, Patrick.
One of the reasons that we don't have more black doctors in the United States is because Flexner, who is considered the founder of modern medical training, was racist as fuck. This sunglass guy can get bent.
Would you trust these doctors with your life to do their job properly?
Pavol Patriot 4, is this you? Hold on. Oh, that's better. This is a book, and I can tell by the content on your page that you don't possess the reading gene in that inbred family of yours. So why don't you find out which one of your brother cousins possesses that gene and then have them read to you some passages out of medical apartheid. And in this book by Harriet A. Washington, by the way, it discusses how black people were experimented on in the medical field in this country since slavery, and will explain why we have a weariness of going to doctors. So yes, the worst doctor in that room I would trust with my medical health before I trusted anyone who looked like you. And let's get into why besides medical apartheid. Hold on. First, this is going to require more reading, and we've already gone over that, so you know what to do. But in spite of having 14% of the United States population, only 5.7% of doctors are black. And they usually have to go through a more intense study program because it is also hindered by racism and harassment. Now, as far as that innuendo you made about set-asides and special programs that black doctors were privy to that made it easier for them to be physicians, that's a bunch of bullshit also, because the proportion of black physicians in this country, that 5.7% I showed you, hasn't changed much in 120 years, long before there were any quotas or set-asides. See, most black doctors come out of historically black colleges and universities, and we know their standards are usually higher. Now here's something else for you. More than half of U.S. doctors face medical malpractice in this country. Yeah, and a few doctors account for the oversized share of malpractice claims due to misdiagnosis. You care to guess what race is overrepresented in that stat? So yes, due to the history of medicine in this country and the implicit biases and racial disparities in the healthcare system, yes, I would.
Special classes to pad their grade to make sure.
It's cool when I do it, but it's a problem when black people do it. I'm a racist. How many years have gone by where plenty of white people who had no business being in Harvard, Yale, Brown, Tufts, whatever, Penn, got there because mommy or daddy had a pen and wrote down in their checkbook that they were going to pay for this or that? Yeah. There are plenty of kids who are only in Ivy League schools, who are only in prestigious professional programs because mommy and daddy have money. That's it. I know it's almost impossible that a whole bunch of black people were actually qualified. Statistically speaking, we work harder than you do because we have to overcome the race that we experience when we have to interview at these places. But how dare you? How dare you insinuate that we
Standards are.
Oh, baby, I can tell you got this thing here twisted. Not only am I going to trust them, I'm going to actively seek them out because I know that they sit for the same licensure, that they have the same accreditations as those other doctors who had nepotism and privilege on their side. I also know that when I walk into their office and I'm frustrated and angry, they're not going to blow me off as the angry black woman, that they're actually going to do a lot of investigation and realize that anxiety and depression manifest differently in people that look like them. And I also know that they're going to spend a little bit more time educating that brother that looks like them as to why it's so important to get their blood pressure and their hemoglobin A1C under control. And for that young mother that looks like them, who is telling them after giving birth that she's in so much pain that it's unbearable, they're not going to blow her off and tell her, oh, that's normal. They're going to treat my pain appropriately.
With your life.
I believe that because they were scrutinized more unfairly, they probably do a better job. I believe that they would be more sympathetic to the worries that I have about being mistreated by a doctor on account of the fact that black people experience mistreatment by doctors all the time. I believe the white guy just doesn't know how affirmative action works and is just racist. And that actually the people who got admitted to the universities, regardless of how it happened, still had to pass with good grades. It's not like I'm walking in that bitch and getting a degree. And my only mistreatment ever by a doctor was a white doctor.
Do you trust these doctors with your life?
Yes. Yes, I would. Very much trust them with my life. Mainly because black people care about everyone. To black people, our lives do matter. But to everyone else, everybody's life doesn't matter. And we're specifically talking about white people such as yourself. But yes, more than any other doctor in this world, I would trust a black doctor that came directly out of school that is in their residency to give me my diagnosis. Yes, I would. Because we care, actually. That's why white children find a big black man when they're scared. Because black people care.
Would you trust these doctors with your life?
Would I trust a bunch of freshly minted doctors with my life as opposed to trusting a guy who looks like he's sitting on mommy and daddy's front porch, still rocking the Justin Timberlake from NSYNC hairstyle with those disgusting pores where all that jealousy is oozing out? Wow, tough choice, Cotton. I don't know which one I would do. Face it, and I understand this is going to be hard for you to do, so pay very close attention to what I'm about to say. They have achieved, in the years that it took for them to get those white coats, they have achieved more in that time than you have in your entire existence. I would trust those doctors with my life because they are doctors. You can hamstring and handicap it all the you want. That's exactly what they are. You, on the other hand, I wouldn't trust walk my dog. stay mad at black excellence.
Standards are lower.
Considering that the only reason why a lot of white doctors were able to support themselves through medical school is because of the financial affluence and privilege of their families. Considering that it's a lot of white doctors out here who are the literal product of legacy admissions to high-ranking medical institutions, and taking into consideration the amount of white doctors who are the subject of a plethora of lawsuits ranging from malpractice to sexual misconduct to ethics to collusion and, yes, medical racism. In terms of my care, if I had to choose between Dr. Rebecca from the Michigan suburbs and a dude from Brooklyn who looked like me, I'm going with the guy from Brooklyn who looks like me.
None of those doctors were qualified according to what he said. They might get some other means to be able to pass according to what he said. Will you trust these doctors with your life? Let me give you my own answer. 100%. I'm going to trust a black doctor with my entire life. With my entire life. Than give a palm-colored doctor 1%. If that is what you want to hear. You know, people like these are people that send wrong messages to the community outside there. If not, how will you just see a group of doctors celebrating? They are happy, doing whatsoever they know how to do best. But the only thing that you can put in your mindset, the only thing that can come into your mind is to say, would you trust these doctors with your life? For those of you that are in the back seat that literally do not understand what he said, I'm going to go ahead and roll what he said for once. Then I'll pick it words by words and give him his answers.
Would you trust these doctors with your life considering their college admission standards are lower?
Yes, I will. And the fact that their college or whatsoever are lower doesn't mean they are not qualified. In fact, a lot of them are even more qualified than people that you want to trust your own life with. And I love the fact that a lot of black Americans gave this man the farful that he deserved. Even some white folks also gave him the farful. Let him know that no matter how hard you try to make these people look like they are not presenting, they are not doing whatsoever they are supposed to do, they are 100% better than you. Let's continue.
And they might even have special classes to pad their grade to make sure.
What is wrong with special classes? What is wrong? I've once taught on Preply as well. I see a lot of white folks, children with special classes. So for someone that even have a special class, it simply means that person will be highly educated. That person will understand better more than you that don't have any of the special classes. So if you're talking about special classes, you should be applauding black parents for not only sending their children into school, but for also giving their children special classes for them to be able to represent. And one beautiful part about these melanin popping doctors is they are literally representing. They are representing where you cannot represent, where you cannot stand. Yeah. So if you did this video because you actually want to chase clouds, welcome to your FAFO regime. And just for context sake, this is not actually a very recent video, okay? I saw this clip rolling and I saw a lot of people's reaction, and I think I had an opinion to say about this, and I'm bringing this as well so that a lot of us would also be educated, especially as black individuals. Do not let anybody look down on you. Do not let anybody look down on your profession. Do not let anybody make it look like you are not worth it. Do not let anybody put you in a position whereby you think that it is definitely going to be over for you. Let's continue.
And pass only available to minorities. Now, that's not to say that none of these doctors are qualified. I'm sure some of them are, but are you confident that every doctor in that room got there by merit, that
they got it by merit? They didn't get it by merit. They are doctors. And it's even better for me to trust them with my entire life, like I said from the beginning of this video, than to trust with whosoever you are talking about.
they have the work ethic, the intelligence, and the impulse control to do their job properly?
You can imagine
Those doctors are celebrating their...
You can imagine even in this clip that a white woman actually have to give you the answer that you so deserve. and I feel like you do not have job, you should try go get one. I feel like you can't even stand any academic system right now, because if you are really educated, sir, you would stick to the microphone to say this. Like, this is something that nobody should even hear coming from you. But anyways, who am I? Who am I? You see, people like this, these are people that literally go ahead to teach their children. And at the end of the day, you see them, they are highly racist in the economy, in the society. And they are the one causing every single thing that we've been going through up to date. Because they can't believe that a black person can do something right. They can't believe that a black person deserves to merit something. They can't believe that a black person can go to school and come out successfully with good grades without having to manipulate their ways out. But if you check in recent, who are those ones manipulating? Who are those ones doing exactly what some of these white folks accuse black people of doing? They are the said white folks. But anyways, let me know what you think in the comment section. And credit belongs to original creators of every single clips and stitches we have in today's episode. I want to say a very big thank you to every single one of you liking, commenting, sharing, dropping super thanks, and also joining my membership. I do not take you guys for granted. You guys are absolutely the best. And yes, guys, with that being said, with no further ado, I do like I always say in my videos, I'm going to be saying bye. I'll see you guys in my next one. For now, bye guys. I love you guys.